security part, HANA security part. So we are into the HANA security core topics. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Coming to HANA security, like the major thing in HANA security, what a HANA security admin does is that he basically is responsible for both user administration and role administration, be it application security for ECC, S4, or any other SAP solution. The major role for a security admin is to ensure that he is the owner for both user administration and role administration. So initially we'll look into the user admin part, and then we'll quickly jump into the role admin part. Like you might have seen, like if you have an idea on the ECC or S4 background, in ECC and S4, we call programs as T codes, that is transaction codes, and we restrict the access to transaction codes to the users with the help of roles. In HANA DB, we are going to see a different scenario where we will call the access assignment things called privileges. We call them as privileges. Okay, like I'm just telling you this so that you are good with the terminology. We'll be calling privileges. So if you have to give access to the user, you will be assigning some privileges to the user with the help of roles. So that is the concept. So that is the core thing. So yeah, let me quickly explain you about what kind of users we have. And before that, I want to just show you how the application looks like. Okay, let me show you that. So we can access HANA DB using multiple applications. Like I'm only aware of one application, that is SAP HANA Studio. And SAP HANA Studio, usually you can access it by searching HANA. Once you search HANA, you'll automatically get SAP HANA Studio as a pop-up here. If your basis guy has installed this on your server. So once I open HANA Studio, usually what happens? So what basically happens is that whenever I open this HANA DB for the first time, HANA Studio for the first time, it will ask me to create a workspace of my own so that I can do my so that I can add my desired systems into it. So once I create this workspace, so this is what we call it as an admin console, basically. Okay, this is the screen that you get. Okay, once you log in into HANA Studio, and I have already added this system into as a system. So let me show you this. So once you double click on the system, you'll get the basic details of the system, like the overview of the system, the landscape, alerts, performance, which I'll go through it. Okay, don't worry. So this is the overview of the system that you get. So if you want to add any new system into the HANA Studio, you can simply click on this new button, and you can sorry, not this. I'm sorry, not the new button. Actually, you can click on Add System here. Okay, and you can give the details, and these details are provided to you by your basis admin usually. So he's going to provide you with the host name, instance number, and it is going to be multiple container. Like I'll tell you the difference between the tenant database and the system database here. So usually the end users, like the end users usually log in into the tenant database to do their activities, and system database is always restricted. Like system database access is never given to the end users who are going to work on this database. It is always tenant database access that we give to the end users. Okay, so we give the description and we click on next. It'll ask you to enter the user ID and password, and that's it. Then you'll be able to log in to your desired system, and you'll be able to see all these tabs here. I'll go through these tabs one by one. Okay, so this is how you add the system that you want. It's an easy process. So let us quickly go through these things one by one. Okay, so basically this is the HANA Studio, and these are the tabs, or this is the structure that you get once you add your system, desired system. And before jumping into the explanation of all these tabs, basically I want you guys to know, like, who is going to use this HANA Studio and HANA database in particular. So there are three kinds of users that are going to use this HANA database. Let me show you that. Yeah. So there are three kinds of users that we have. That is admins, modelers, and developers, basically. And apart from that, end users will also use this system. So admins are the ones who basically create the users and roles, like us. The security people are the admins. Basis team, we are the admins in this system. The basis team and the security teams comes under the admin users, basically, because we'll have the elevated access to grant this access to the modelers or developers or the end users. So the modelers are the ones who perform modeling activities like creating objects. Don't get confused when I say objects, because I'm going to clearly demonstrate like what kind of access do you give to the modelers and what kind of activities they do in the system. That shouldn't be an issue. And the developers who are going to create and develop the object in HANA database. So these are the major users that you are going to see. So going forward, and you're going to learn like how can you restrict the access. Like everyone cannot get the same access. So you have to divide the access between the users so that there is no SOD conflict. So SOD is nothing but segregation of duty. So no one person can have all the access with them. Like administrators like us shouldn't have access to create any objects or create any tables or create any views in the HANA DB. Our task is to only to create users and roles in the system. So I'm using this word again, privileges. So the privileges to the admin users should be restricted in such a way that they're not able to create any new models, or they're not able to create any objects or views in the HANA database. So for that, you need to create the roles, and you need to assign these roles into the user profile, which we are going to see. Okay. So, okay, as I said earlier, we are going to create a workspace of our own. Okay. And I've already shown you the technical console, which is this. This is our technical console where you're going to see this system, and these are the folders that you get in the system. So whatever system that you add, you're going to get the same folders. I'm going to explain the importance of each and every folder that we have here, basically. Okay. And it is not limited to one system, guys. Okay. I'm only adding this system as this is the only system available with us. Like this is the trainer system, but in real time scenario, we'll be adding multiple systems. Like there will be an architecture, right? Like we have a development system. There will be a workflow from development. We have development, quality, and production. We'll have at least three systems, right? If let us say if your source system is going to be S4 HANA, or for instance BW for HANA. For BW for HANA, you are going to have three instances like development, quality, and production. So you'll be adding three systems into your HANA Studio, right? So it is always advisable for the modelers or what do you say, for the developers to do the development activities in dev, and to move these changes, or to move this object data from development to quality and quality to production. It is not always advisable to directly create any models or views or objects directly in quality or production system. So for that reason, we always have this hierarchy. So we have dev, quality, and production. So you have to follow this process in any organization. So while giving access in quality and production, you should also be aware that you have to restrict this access to the modelers and developers so that they're not going to create anything directly in the quality or the production system. Sometimes there can be an exception. There will always be an exception. Okay, not sometimes. There will always be an exception where the user has to create the model or an object directly in the target system. Okay. For that reasons, we always have a restricted role handy so that whenever these people need elevated access on approval basis from the compliance, you can assign this access to the requested user. I hope it is clear. Yeah, that is how we do it. And so the basically, if you have completed your basis session, so whenever you're installing any new SAP system, there will be a super user ID given to you so that you can log in into the system and you can create the users and roles, initial users and roles that you want. So such user ID in our HANA DB is the system user ID. So the system user ID, I'll show you. The system user ID is very important concept, guys. Okay, system user ID will have full access basically. So the system user ID is your SAP star user ID. You can relate it to the SAP star user ID if you have idea about S4 HANA or BW or whatever application SAP application system that it might be. Yeah. So this is the main user ID, guys. System user ID. System user ID is granted with all the privileges. Okay. Basically, it will have all the access within. So initially, this user ID is provided. Okay. So that you can log in into the system and you can do the activities that you desire. And once your activities are done, it is always recommended to deactivate this system user ID. Okay. So this system user ID is very important. So this is the only ID that you have when you log in. Okay. I'm going a bit off topic here. It might be a bit confusing for you, but okay, later on, once we progress into our further sessions, you'll be able to understand all this. Don't worry. So let me quickly come to these tabs. What are these tabs? So as the name suggests, backup is nothing but taking backup of entire data that you have. Okay. The catalog data or the content data or the provisioning data or the security data that you have, you can create a backup basically by using this backup. And this activity is not done by us. Okay, this backup activity is done by the basis admin, so I'm not going to cover this topic here, okay, in our class, but I'm going to tell you what it does. Okay, so this backup is always handy. Okay, whenever there is an issue in the system, you can always have this backup handy. Okay, so in my current project, what they're doing, they're taking this backup once in 15 days. Okay, and they are saving it in a secure folder. There is a secure folder for my project. They're saving it there. Okay, so that if suppose if there is any issue, they can have this backup handy and they'll not miss anything, right? And if there is some large data that they are going to import into HANA DB, so at such instances also the basis admin usually takes this backup and he keeps it handy. Okay, so that he can retrieve from that. But here, if you can see, the backup interval is also set. The backup interval is set for 15 minutes. Okay, and they have not even limited the maximum file size. So it will keep on taking the backup, but the training, as it's a training server, you'll not have much data here. Okay, for that reason, it is kept like this. But in my organization, it is disabled. They are doing a manual backup. They are not doing a backup. They have not set this up as a backup as an interval thing. They're doing it as a manual backup. That is what backup does. So we are not going to, like, security admin is not going to touch this backup thing. Okay. Neither the catalog or content or provisioning. Okay. As the name says, the security consultant is only going to touch this security. We are owners only for the security tab. We are not going to do anything in the backup, catalog, or content or the provisioning tabs, but I'm going to explain it to you so that you'll have an idea like how you're going to give access to this catalog or content or provisioning. Okay. So that you'll get a brief idea about it. Okay. So let us start with catalog. So in catalog, you always find schemas. So these are the schemas. You already have experience in database, right? You might understand more better than me. But yeah, so these are the schemas that you have in the catalogs. Okay, basically, what is a schema? It's okay. So schema is basically a logical container where you can store the data. Simple. Yeah. So that is how you create a schema. Schema is see what happens whenever whenever you create a user ID in a HANA DB, whenever you are going to create a new user in HANA DB, so automatically a schema with the name of the user ID is automatically created. Okay. So what are you going to do with the schema? Let us take an example here. So best is a user ID created. Okay. Best is a standard database user ID which is created using the system DB user ID or some other user ID, let us say. So whenever you create a user ID called best, a schema of this with the same name as the user ID is already created. Okay, automatically created. See, this is the schema which is created by default. Okay, in this schema, the modeler or the developer will be able to create whatever he likes. Suppose he wants to create any table, he can create it. Suppose he wants to create any views, he can create those views. So all these things are called objects. So he'll be able to create modeler or the developer will be able to create multiple objects using this access. Okay. So for example, let us create a table here. You can create any table. I've just right clicked, okay, right clicked on table and I quickly selected new table. Okay. Here itself you'll be able to see what kind of table you are creating. Okay. You are creating a table in schema best. Best belongs to who? Best belongs to the user best. Okay. And type would be column store or row store. It's up to you. Okay. You can select anything. And now for now I'm selecting only the column store. Enter some random name. Enter some random name. I'm going to enter TST and click on what? Do something or what? What is the execute button? Hmm. Don't I have this access or what? Okay. Okay. Let me check on this later. Okay. No worries. I'll check on this later. There is some issue. Not giving me an option to execute. Usually what it does, okay, it allows you to execute this, okay, and it will save this as a table. But okay, let me. No, that's not giving me an option to do it. Okay, I can check on it later. Okay, once you execute this, this is the execute button that you have. So this table is not created by the security admin. Okay, I wanted to show an example, but it is not letting me to do it. So, okay, it's the right thing, varchar only. Okay, it's not allowing me to do it, which is fine. So once you execute this, you're going to save this table here. Once you expand this table, you're going to find this table. Okay. Similar fashion, you can create multiple views if you want. Let us say if you want to create some view here, you can just right click on it, and click on new view, and you can start creating the views of your choice. You, in the sense, the admin or the developer can create whatever he likes. He can insert a table, he can insert a join, and he can play with this. I don't know. This is a training system. I'll get this sorted. Okay, there are some issues for sure. So in the real time system, you will not get all these issues, guys. Okay, you'll have the system ready and all that. Okay, you can insert the table that you want. You can always insert joins. Acha, okay. Let me try to create a table once. It should allow me to create a table in the first attempt itself, but it is not allowing me to do it. Okay,
Maybe
I can check on that. Just a second. I was told that I was given access to all the privileges, but yeah, let me see. You might be right. Okay. Let me- But this is my own object actually, so I should be able to create anything in this thing. It's my own schema. I should be able to create anything. So this is the schema. This is the user ID which I've logged in, which is the best. So this is my own schema. Best is my own schema. So there will be no restrictions usually to create anything in best. Okay. And also, if I'm owner for this schema, I can be able to give this access of this schema to any other user by myself. There is no need to the user admin, but that's not, it's not doing this. I don't know why. I don't know. Let's use system DB user instead. I'll reset this password instead of using this. That would be better. Okay, they have given all these parameters. Okay, it's giving me this error message if you guys can see it. So what happens basically? So when you have this security tab within, right? So when you go to security tab, you can see what parameters are set basically in the password policy. You have all these parameters. You have to like obey all these parameters if you want to reset any password. I'm going to disable it for now because I'm not interested in anything else. This is fine. Do I have this access at all? Okay. So I have it. Okay. So I have removed all the password restrictions so that I can reset the password happily. You don't do it in the real time scenario. Okay. You always select this option so that you have maximum security. So it's always good to select all these options and the minimum password length as a standard, you always give it as 8 characters. Okay. So that is how you do it. And maximum login items, it's too many. 20 is too many. Okay. You always give 3 or 4. That's it. 20 is too many. Okay. He'll be the end user will keep on trying. If at all there is an SNC configured for HANA DB, anyways the password logon will be disabled usually. But still, you should never enable this for 20 days. Okay. So the failed logon items should always be at 4 or 5 items max. And life of initial password also should not be 365 days because lifetime of initial password should be max of 1 day or 2 days. Okay, not more than that. If at all if the password is expired, the user can get back to you for the password reset. That is how you do it. Maximum duration of user inactivity is such a thing that if you are not active in the system or if you have not logged in into the system for more than 365 days, then your user ID is going to get locked and your password will be deactivated automatically by HANA DB. So in order to keep your ID alive, you have to either log in or use the system, or or else you can raise a simple request to your user admin to unlock your user ID. Right? It will simply take a service now ticket or something like that to do this. And minimum password lifetime and maximum password lifetime is also simple. It's not a big issue. You can understand with the name itself what it's going to do. And notification of password expiration, it's up to you if you want to configure this notification or not. So the mail ID that you update while creating the user or the AD, the Active Directory which this system is linked to, so it will take the mail ID from there and it will send it to the user. Okay. This also we never do it actually for HANA DB. It is left as 0. That's how it goes. So I've reset the password parameters. So let's see if I'm able to reset the password now. The system user ID. Okay, it's not even 8 characters, is it? Let's try. No, it is not. What's happening? Let me refresh this. It depends actually. So this application, so if you're saying that people should be able to access this data from their application directly, then like we are not going to create any users in. Sorry, we are going to create a user called restricted user in this system, and we are going to assign some privileges called application privileges to that user, so that he'll be able to view these views, as you said, from the third party application privileges. Yeah, we are going to discuss this topic later. We're not going to add any new system here. We are just going to create this user with the application privileges. That's
Okay.
Let me refresh this. Okay, let me try to do this now. Usually, system user is always good. Like we are not using our own IDs in our project. We are only using system ID, which is not good, but yeah, we're using it so that we can have maximum access. Do this now. Okay, yeah. So earlier it didn't accept because I did not do a refresh here on the user tab. Sorry, on the security tab. So the parameters which we disabled did not reflect in this folder. So whenever you do any changes to the parameters, you should always do the refresh so that so the changes are reflected to the user IDs. Okay. So now I've reset the system user ID password. So let us say if I'm logged in, I've logged into HDB. HDB is your system ID, guys. So I've logged in into HDB using, okay, I've logged in HDB using the details that I have. But if suppose, let us say if you want to log in with a new ID, you can just right click on the system. Okay, and go to add system with different user. So just simply click on it. It will only ask you the user ID and password. It will not ask you to enter the host name or the instance or whatever it might be. Okay, it will not ask you any details as such. You can directly enter the password. You can try to log. That's some issue actually. So if you're going to select store username and password, it is not going to ask you the user ID and password later on. Okay, once you enter your workspace, your system will be up and ready. Or else if you're not going to store this in the secure storage, you're going to need to enter all the user ID and password always. Okay, so let's try. Okay, I'm able to log in with the system user ID here. So it will show you the ID in the curly braces, as you can see best. This is the ID. Now I'm able to log in into system. So let us see if I'm able to create any schemas here. Sorry, any objects here. Earlier we wanted to create some table, right? So where is this best? So let us search for the best schema. I'm not able to see it. Okay. Strange. But the system user should always be able to see any schema that he wants. Okay, let me add the schema here if it is not there. So you can simply go to security user and you can find the user ID best. Best, and you can go to object privileges. Sorry, not best. Let me go to my own ID. This is the system ID, right? But it is not open the system. Let me close all the sessions. Let me open the system ID. Let me go to object privileges. So object privileges is basically used to assign the schema actually. You can assign any schema. Let me search for best. Schema. Yeah, so it's a bit slow. I cannot do anything about it. So let me try adding the schema here. The system admin. Okay. So while adding, it will ask you to give what kind of privileges you want to give to system user. So that so let us say, so whatever privilege you're going to give here for the system user, so it is going to like allow them to do all these activities on the schema best. So let us say if you're going to give access called execute, you'll be able to create any table view or something, and you'll be able to execute it. Okay. If you're going to only give select, you'll only be able to view the data. If you're going to give drop, okay, don't get confused. Okay, I'm going to tell you in detail. Okay, what each and every activity here does in the privilege. I'm only just assigning this so that I'll be able to show you to how to create this table number. For now, I'm going to give select. So what is this S and no? You might ask me. So this is nothing but if I'm going to allow them to grant this access to others or not for the schema. If I'm going to click on S, you're going to see the scenario also. Okay, don't worry. But if you're going to grant it as yes, you'll be able to give this access to other users as well by yourself. There is no need for us actually user admin and all this. But we never do this actually. We always keep it as no. Because the access should be with us, not with the end user. We should not be able to give any access to other users without our knowledge. Okay. So I'm going to select privilege and what else I want to do? I want to give execute. I want to give insert. That's it. That's enough. It's a system ID. It's not a database name or a server name. Okay, it's just a system
HDB
ID. Like in
system.
SAP, you always have system ID with 3 characters. That is called SID. Yeah, just like in real-time scenario, let us say if you have HANA DB system, you'll call it like the system IDs would be given as DB4 for development, QB4 for quality, and PB4 for your production system. So that is an SID, system ID. You're going to name your system with 3 characters in SAP. So that is that. Feature not supported, grantor and grantee are identical. Feature not supported, grantor and grantee are identical. So it is still considering that I'm still in the uh, this ID. Okay. So what ID? I'm still using the best ID. Okay. If I'm there in the best. Okay. Let me remove this. I'll show it to you once again. Let me close this session as well. Okay. Let me open the session as HANA DB systems. Okay. Now, usually I should have it actually. Best, I don't know why. So usually the system user ID should be able to see everything, but okay, someone, as is a training server, someone might have changed the privileges that are assigned to this user. But okay, that's not an issue. So let me give the privileges that are needed for best at least. So these are all the systems, these are all the standard roles, okay, that are assigned to best, if you can see. So whatever roles are available in the system, all roles are assigned by the admin, if you can see. So the object privileges that he gets is only best initially. If you want to assign any other schema of any other person, you can do it. Let us say if I want to assign the system DB. I can do it. It's slow, but if you want to select any system schema, you can do it. Here are all the schemas that are available, basically. It's searching. Okay, it might take some time. Okay, so this is the system schema that is available. You want to add that system schema, you can add it, but be careful when you are giving the access to the system schema because you will be able to do anything that you would like. Okay, let me quickly select execute. And I'm able to do it. Great. So I'm now able to assign the system here. So let us go to best. So this is your this is the system that you have. So let us go to the catalog here. Let us. So you have assigned this new schema here in the catalog. So always refresh it if you want to see. So I have refreshed it, and now if I go here, I should be able to see the schema called systems. I'm able to see it. The system schema is available. If you can see, expand it. See what tables are there in that. There is no table data. Okay, for now. Try creating some tables. No, still not allowing this. But it's an issue. Okay, I'll check on this. So don't worry. Okay, let's quickly jump on the next topics. So that's how you assign the schema access to one user and another user. Okay. So for creating the schema, actually, let us say, okay, you have logged into this user ID. Okay, and I show you how to create a. Okay, did I show you how to create a schema? Okay, you can always right click on catalog. Just so select the system that you need, that you want. If you want to create a new schema, okay, you will get this schema by default, okay, with the same name of your user ID. But let us say if you want to create a new schema by yourself, you can always double click on here on your system. Okay, once you double click on it, or you select the system, click on this SQL editor, open SQL console. For the selected system, it will open the SQL command. Simply type what name shall I give? Let us give ECC. Just click on execute and you'll be able to see the new schema. Uh, what's wrong with this? Insufficient privilege. Okay, there is some privilege issue. I'll show you how to debug this issue also. Okay, let us say if it is saying that you don't have privilege to create schema. Okay, you can also rectify it. Okay, let me see what privileges are assigned. Sir. This is the saddest part. You should be able to create whatever schema he wants. Okay, basically, but he's not allowed to do it. Let's see if the system, at least the system user has it. I'll assign that privilege to this user later on. Okay, let me select this and open SQL editor on this. Let me repeat the same thing. Let us try to create a new schema on the system ID.
Yeah.
Sorry? Let us see if it has allowed us to create. Okay, see. Okay. System user ID has the required access. So it allows me to create a new schema. So once a new schema is created, you can simply select refresh on the catalog, and you'll be able to see this new schema ECC created in it. And in ECC, you can go ahead and you can create whatever views or tables that you want. Basically, it is not letting me to create any table. I don't know if I'm wrong, okay, on creating the table part, because we don't do it. But yeah, let me create this virtual table. See what happens. Okay, this is not the kind of virtual table. We also not create any virtual table. So we always create a table, but it should always close this. Access. Am I doing something wrong? Something like that. Mhm. I don't know. I'm doing something wrong also. But varchar is the right variable, as I know. It should take it, but okay, it is not giving me. I don't need to create any. Let me give the index also. Yeah, actually, this and all is not needed. Just explaining this thing. It should automatically allow me to create a column, also table directly. I don't know what's going on. I'll get back to this once again. Yeah. So he will be able to create any views or tables that he likes. Okay, in this new schema that he has created. And as he is the owner of this schema, okay, he will be the owner of this schema, because he is the one who has created this schema, and he'll be the owner of it. And he can assign the access of this schema to any other user. I'll show you how he is going to do it. Let us say I'm the owner of ECC schema. Let us say there is another user ID here in the system. We go down. Let us select any random user ID. Let us take best for the instance. Let us see if we are able to assign this new schema to best himself. So how do you assign a new schema? You go to object privileges here. So object privilege is nothing but your schema here. So already best has access to best, and so his own schema and system schema. Along with that, you can assign best with this new schema that you have created. This ECC. Okay, once you get it, select it, and you can give access to best on what actions that he can perform using the schema. If let us say you only want to restrict best with the access of executing it, or if you want to restrict him only with the display, So accordingly, you're going to select the privileges that he's going to get, and he'll be only able to do those privileges only. He'll be able to perform only those privileges only. So let us give him select. Skip. If you are going to give only select, he'll not be able to execute it. He'll only be able to he'll not be able to do any changes with it. If you're only going to give select, he'll only be able to view it. And if you give execute, he'll be able to do any changes to that table. And if you give drop, he'll be able to delete the table, drop or delete. So that is what these privileges do. I'm going to discuss on that in detail, but yeah. So you can assign this privilege in such a way. Yeah. So as you are owner of this ECC, you're able to assign this privilege or object access to another user. Okay, and you can always decide what access is he going to get. As you have created this schema, by default you'll have full access to that schema. Okay, you can do whatever you want. But if let us say if the next person has to access this schema, so he has to definitely take this access from you, or else from me as well, because I'm the system admin, system user. So you can always drop a request to me, but always be careful that which access you are going to give. So let us say he's asking his a lead schema access, so that he can create a new table or he can edit any view. So these are all views, guys. So in views, they'll have different kinds of views, like the modelers or whoever is using HANA DB will create multiple views, like calculation views or attribute views. So or analytical views. He might create multiple views. Okay. So the view is nothing but a graphical representation of data, basically. So he is going to use all the table data, and he is going to create some graphical information in these views, like calculation views, analytical views, and different kinds of views he's going to create. So if you let us say if an end user is like wanting to access his leads schema or his leads views, whatever views are created by his lead. So you should always be careful. Like you should connect with the right person. You should check with his lead whether he's going to get this access or not. If he's going to get this access at all, are you going to give edit access to him or only display access to him? Based on that, you're going to alter these privileges, or else you can ask the lead himself to give this access to the user. And trust me, whoever is handling this HANA DB and whoever is working on HANA DB will always be aware of what access he can give to his colleague or something like that, because they're very they're very good at it. Simply. So if you have to give in a situation, if you have to give, you have to be very careful. You have to check with the lead, or if you have to check with the owner of that schema basically before assigning this access to the new user. So always these users are very limited, and mostly this HANA DB database is used by utilized by in my project, at least in whatever projects I worked, is by the BI modelers or BI developers. BI developers, they are going to use it extensively, mostly because they need this HANA database to create these views and to use it in business intelligence application of SAP. BW for HANA. Okay, they're going to use it more. So you're going to in your real time scenario also you're going to encounter similar kinds of users who are going to get into these things. So they are going to create multiple objects here based on their requirement. So this access and all is given by giving this access to the schema to the another user if someone else wants to access this. So basically that is what a catalog does. Okay. And also what else should I say? Okay. So I already explained you what is a schema. Okay, and what a like schema is stored in what a catalogs. Okay, it contains all the schemas. Let us go with context. So basically, so this is the important topic, guys. So the catalog is our important concept here. Context and all is fine. Context and provisioning is fine because provisioning is mostly taken care by the basis team. So what provisioning, what like we're not going to cover provisioning here, guys, because see provisioning what it does. So if there is a source system, let us say there is a source system which is your S/4HANA system or your BW system. What we do in provisioning is that we load this data from that source system to HANA DB. This loading of data is not done by us. It is done by the basis team. We are not going to cover it. Okay, we are only going to cover. We are only going to mostly see this catalog and security in the coming classes. We are not going to go with the provisioning part. Okay, this provisioning part is done by the basis admin. So that's clear. Okay, what is he going to do? He's going to load the data from your target system to your HANA DB system, basically. Okay, there is no remote sources here because it's a training server. But in a real-time scenario, you're going to get all these things loaded actually. So whatever systems you have, like in my organization, S4 and S4 HANA and BW for HANA is connected to HANA database in my current project where we are implementing the solution for the customer. Okay, and the basis admin basically takes care of it, not the security admin. It's very clear. There's a thin line between the security admin and the basis admin here. The basis admin will be able to do all the security activities, but he's not supposed to do it. Okay, he'll have access to do everything. Okay, he'll have the system credentials with him. He'll have everything, and he might also have the knowledge to do it, but he'll not do it. He'll be only focusing on creating a connection. People call it RFC connection in SAP terminology, remote function call connection. So basically, that connection is needed to establish a connection between your HANA DB system and your target system or your source system. So once you maintain a connection between that, they'll do this process called provisioning. Provisioning is nothing but importing the data from your target system to your source system to your target system. Target system is your HANA DB, and the source system would be S4 HANA, BW for HANA, or any third-party application for that reason. Okay, you cannot say that it is HANA DB is only allowed to import data from SAP applications. No, it can also import data from a third-party application, but that is taken care by the basis team. But what is content? So content will have packages. So what is a package? Let me tell you. So these are the packages that we have right now. So when we create objects, so basically what happens when we create objects, we can assign these objects to these packages, and we can use these packages to transport the content of these objects from one system to another system. That means, as I said earlier, people will not allow you to create any objects directly in the quality system or production system. So how are you going to transport these objects? So for that reason, SAP has provided you with this functionality of packages, where you can load the content in the packages. Basically, what you do, you basically assign. Let us say I'll create a new package called security. Anything. So like if you want to create anything, any new package, you can just right click on this. You can create on new. You can create on package. Let me create a package called security. So this thing will automatically get updated. I'm not going to give any description. Only security is mandatory. Okay, I'm going to create a okay, let it be. I'm going to create best as the responsible person for this. That's fine. It's fine with me. So I've created this package called security. So what I'm going to do, I'll not show it to you right away. Okay, guys. Okay, you might get confused. But later on, what I'm going to do when I create this package, I'm going to add the object that they have created. These are all objects: attribute view, analytical view, calculation view. These all will come under objects only. So I'll select the desired object that we are going to that is needed to be imported from the desired system to the another system. Okay, and then we can use it to move it from one system to another system. Okay, so that is the use of content basically. And security folder, as I've already explained you. So what happens in security folder? This security tab at the beginning is responsible for setting all the parameters in the system. Like you have audit here, audit disabled, but in the real-time scenario, what we usually do, we create an audit policy. Cannot edit the system settings. You do not have. There's audit admin. Okay. Okay. Best is not having any access, guys. I have to. Okay. Let's do one thing. Let assign this privilege to him.
Understood.
Okay.
But
So it is basically asking, see, to enable the audit parameters, to change any audit parameter, it is basically saying that you don't have this privilege, audit admin privilege. These are the system privileges that you have, guys. Okay, which we are going to discuss when we are going to go into our role admin. So whenever we are creating some roles, we are going to add all these privileges into the role itself so that there is no need for you to select all these privileges one by one going into each and every tab. Simply what you can do, you can simply select, you can simply assign a role, custom role, which you are going to create, not the standard roles provided by SAP. So as you all might already know, if you have attended this basis session, so it is always not recommended to assign the standard roles which are provided by SAP. Standard roles are only provided by SAP as a reference so that you can use it as a reference and you can create your custom roles. Yeah, right? So you should always prefer for custom roles whenever you are implementing your security solution. Never assign any standard roles to the users. But this is a training system. That's why you're seeing that the best is assigned with all the standard roles. But you can, as you can already see, that I'm already missing some privileges which are very important for a security admin. So the basis admin has done a shoddy job here. So sorry for that. So we can always add the privilege that we want. So the privilege that it is asking me is that you need to have audit admin privilege with you if you want to change any audit parameters with the best user ID. So I have assigned it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a refresh before I try to do any changes here. Okay, and I'm going to close all the sessions that are open. I don't want them. But it is not always suggestible to give all the privileges under one role. It will become an SAP all role or a wider access role. So always try to create roles which only the end user needs. Let us say if you are creating a role for the security admin, you have to make sure that you are only assigning the privileges that the security admin might need. You should not be giving the security admin a privilege to create any modeling views in the catalog or something like that. So because we are not going to create any tables, or we are not going to create any views like calculation views or analytical views like that. Right? We are only going to create users and roles in the system, and we are responsible for maintaining all these things in the security tab. Let us say we have this tab here. You are responsible as a user. Okay, and again logged into the system user ID. Sorry, guys. Okay, let me log in with the best user ID. Now I'll be able to view the status. See, now I'm able to enable the audit log basically. So yeah, so I'll be responsible as a security admin. We will be responsible for this security tab, this user tab, and role tab. That's it. We're not going to touch anything else here. The provisioning or the content or the catalog or backup. These things are used by different users. Provisioning and content is mostly used by the basis team, not by us. We rarely use content. I'll show you like in which scenarios we are going to use content here. But backup, catalog, and provisioning, we never touch them. This catalog is used by the modelers. Okay, the modelers or the developers. This backup is used by basis team. Provisioning is used by basis team. Only the two folders that we are going to utilize is this security folder and this content folder. I am only explaining you this catalog folder so that you'll have an idea. In future, let us say if they're saying that some access is missing, you should be immediately able to say that, okay, which schema you might need. Tell me. I'll be able to add it to your profile. Okay, or else what access issue you're getting. Okay, I'll switch on a trace and let me trace what access you're missing. Okay, there are different queries that we are going to use to trace the issues. Whenever a user gets an access issue, we'll be ready with this SQL query, which helps us out to give what privilege that user is missing. Okay, for that, what happens? So, if for every error that we are going to get, actually, I should have showed you earlier. So, it showed me the privilege. Along with that privilege, it also showed me an error code. So, using this error code, there is an SQL query in SAP, which I'm going to show you in HANA DB. There is an SQL query. You can open the SQL editor, and you can execute this command prompt. Sorry, you can execute this query along with the error code. So what happens? It will clearly give you what privilege that user is missing. In turn, you can analyze and you can assign this privilege to the user so that he can get the desired access. So that is how you should do. Also, you'll not be assigning any privileges directly to the user. The privileges should always come from the role. It is the standard practice, and it is the best practice which is recommended by SAP. You should never always assign this privilege to the user directly. You have to assign this access indirectly. Like, how do you do it? You have to edit the role. You have to add the missing privilege to this role, and you have to update the user ID with this access. So what happens? Basically, the privilege will be there in the role. Once the user ID is refreshed, automatically that privilege will be updated in the privilege section. You will not touch privilege section. Okay, I have only added it for your knowledge purpose here, showing you that okay, if some privilege is missing, I can add the system privilege. But it is always not recommended to add this system privilege. So whenever you create a custom role, you will be adding all the necessary privileges into the role itself. So what happens once you add this role to this user? So once you assign this role to the user and save it, automatically whatever system privileges are assigned to that role are reflected here in the system privileges. So if let us say if this role, if this privilege is missing to a particular user, you should add it to a role and you have to save it. That's it. That privilege will automatically update it here in the system privileges tab. Am I clear so far? Yeah. Role is basically nothing but a set of privileges. It's a collection of privileges.
Okay.
Clear?
Clear.
So you'll be only assigning a role to the user. Yeah. So, okay. So we'll be basically responsible for doing this audit to maintain this password policy. And do you guys have any idea on the SAML? SAML is nothing but it's an SNC solution, single sign-on solution. What is a single sign-on? Single sign-on basically enables you to log in into the system without the need of a user ID and password. Let us say if your organization is implementing SAML solution, single sign-on solution. So what happens? If you have any configuration ready, you can add it simply. And these details are provided by the basis team. So you're going to give the identity provider name. And once you give the identity provider name, if the configuration is ready in your system, it will automatically pick it up. Yeah, so that's how you add SAML. But trust me, no one does it. In HANA DB, people never activate this SAML or Kerberos or X509. These are all different kinds of SNC solution guys in the market. So you have all these solutions in HANA DB. If you want to configure something based on your client's requirement, you can always configure it with the help of the basis team. So basis guy, what he does is that he basically provides you with the identity provider name, or he himself maintains this SML identity provider tab. Okay, we don't do it. And coming to data volume encryption, okay, if you want to get some, so these are all the services, the standard services that are provided by HANA DB by default. Okay, if you want to encrypt something, if you want to make sure that you're not able, so let us double click on this. So let me show. Okay, nothing is happening. But okay, if you want to encrypt some service, you can do it from here. Let us if you select something and if you want to encrypt it, you can do it. But it is not recommended to change any of these settings. Okay, always you should have it unencrypted. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is data volume encryption. But basically, what you're going to do is, as a security admin, you're going to touch only audit and password policy in the real time. Okay, you're not going to touch anything else. Auditing so that you'll have the trail of everything, so that who does what in the system. So by default, you'll have the syslog enabled. Let me select this. I'll show you how you can. Okay. General errors not allowed for tenant database. Okay, so this is a tenant database. Okay, let me select. I'm select a system log. But okay, let me select. No, it's not. It's not going to allow me. I think so. This configuration is also missing. General errors not allowed for tenant database. Okay, I'll check on this. No worries. Okay, let us continue with this. No, it's not allowing us to change any setting when it comes to audit. Okay, I'll check with our backend team. This thing. Okay, it should usually allow us to enable this setting, but it is not. Okay, we have to enable. We can add any policy that we want. We can enforce any policy that we want. But this is a different session. Okay, going forward, we are going to cover this audit session in auditing. So at that time, we can have this ready. Okay, but for now, we have covered all the four folders that we get basically in your system. So this is the structure. This is a common structure that you get. Like whatever system you add, or with whatever system, whatever user ID you log in. So this is the basic structure that you are going to get. Okay. So, okay, let me show you what kind of users we have in the system. So, at the beginning of the session, you might have saw. So this screenshot here. So, okay, there are two types of users in HANA DB. As you can see, system users and the application users. Okay, the system users are the user IDs which come by default at the time of installation. So once you install HANA DB, so what happens? These user IDs are automatically generated, and each system user ID is responsible for different tasks. Just like the system user ID which you are using right now. So you are using system user ID. Earlier, we are using system user ID, right? So what system user ID enabled us with is that it enabled us to use the system as we like. Like there is no restriction for system user ID. But in this training server, they have restricted it. I don't know for some reason. But usually what happens by default, it will not, there will be no restriction. You can create any user IDs you want. You can create any views you want. You can do whatever you like in the system. So it is always advisable. So once you're able to create the default the custom roles and custom user IDs, you should always log in with that user ID, and you should disable this user ID so that no one else uses this user ID. That is the thing. But basically, people never follow these instructions from SAP. They keep on using the system user ID, but it is not advisable. It is up to the company requirement once again. It is up to them. So these are the different system user IDs that you can see. Underscore sys repo, underscore sys underscore task, and each system user ID is responsible for some activities. I'll show you that what activities it does. Okay. And coming to application user IDs, we are application users. We are the application users. That is administrators, modelers, and developers and end users, because we are going to use the application. And these user IDs doesn't come by default. You have to create these user IDs. Okay, and how do you create these user IDs? There are two ways of creating a user ID in HANA DB. Okay, one way is to create it by just just right clicking on security. Sorry, no, sorry, not security. I'm sorry. Just expand the security tab. Just select on users. Click on right click and select new user. There are two kinds of users here, guys. New user and restricted user. So Nelby asked me, like, what happens if a third party application is connected or third party application is built using HANA database. And so for such instances, what happens? Those users will not log in into HANA DB directly. They'll be using the HANA DB resources from their application itself. So for such users, we are going to create new restricted user. I'll tell you a simple difference between a new user and a new restricted user. Okay, don't worry, it's going to be very easy. So when I select on create user and when I select new user, what happens? It will ask me to give a username. So I'm going to give a random username here. Let us call it happy or something. Happy or something like that. Okay. So this option is the only thing that differentiates between a new user and a new restricted user. Okay. If I'm going to select it, see what happens. If I'm going to select it and save it, this user is nothing but a restricted user. Okay. Let me show you the difference. Okay. It is not coming. This box is not checked by default, right? For a new user. If I am going to select a new restricted user here, see what happens. Are you able to see? The disable box is already checked. So they'll be not able to log in into the system using user ID and password. HANA DB system, they'll not be able to log in directly. Yeah, so they'll not be able to access ODBC or JDBC access basically. Okay, if you create these user IDs as restricted users basically. If you create a user as a normal user, as a internal HANA database user, you'll be that user will be able to do anything, any activity in the system. Okay, that is how you do it. Okay, you can give some random password. As I've removed everything, now you'll be able to give any password of your choice. But 8 characters is not removed by me, so for that reason, I have to give the right password here. But if not, you can give the random, like random password you want. I'll give just a password called login. Login. I'll allow anything. Confirm also. I'll give it as login. And as I said to you earlier, these are all the solution, guys. These are all what single sign-on solutions, SNC solutions, basically. So what it does basically, if you have something configured for your company, so what you can do, you can simply select this and you can configure this. Since you don't have any configuration, it will not allow you to do it. So each and everything has a different thing actually. Okay, when it comes to SAML, SAML is what? SAML is a security assertion markup language. If you might know, it's an SNC solution. Okay, so what happens if you are trying to use HANA DB from an Android application or an iOS application? So usually this SAML comes into picture. Windows also you can use it from HANA DB from any third-party application if you want to use it directly without any user ID or password. You can go with SAML. When it comes to this X509, if you're able to see, so we can use this as a web portal for web portals and applications and where you can use digital signature and thumbprint. In some organizations, you might see like people will employ in a few projects. I've seen that because I myself used to log in with a thumb impression. So they have this configured in their organization. So until and unless you have this thumb impression registered there, you'll not be able to log in into the system. So X509 allows you to do that to take digital signatures and thumbprints. So these are all different technologies, guys, basically. And Kerberos is your famous Windows AD or the Active Directory that you might have. You can give this as a Kerberos and you can give the external ID. External ID can be anything. Mostly it will be your mail ID, which is created in the Active Directory. You can give the active. You can maintain the Active Directory here, and the user will be able to log in directly without the user ID and password. It depends organization to organization. Okay, so basically that are these tabs does that. Okay, it enables SNC. If you have it implemented, so you can configure this. Okay, and this configuration is also done by the basis team mostly, but in some cases, in some projects, they might ask you if the basis team is completely occupied, they might ask you to configure this, but still the metadata or the pre-delivered data for this configuration is provided to you so that you can configure this. You have all the steps with you to configure this. I don't know which technology, like you might have AD already, right, in your Gulf helicopters. By my no. Similarly, you'll have some technology registered for SNC. So
No, we
SNC
have
is
here
always
AD only,
secure.
LDAP only.
LDAP is it? Yeah. So Kerberos is your LDAP basically. You can enable Kerberos if you want. But for HANA DB, we never do it because anyways it will always have the limited users in it. Like the BW users are very limited in my previous projects at least. It might be a different scenario for you, but okay. Usually it is very less that people might use this HANA database directly. And okay, so you can, this is the classic scenario where you set the validity date from date and to date. And the session client, you never give any session client. And as I said, you have to, while creating a new user, you have to give some roles. So what roles we have? Right now, we only have the system roles. Okay, somebody has created admin, ABAP roles here, but okay, not, let us not go with these roles. But we do have all standard roles here. Okay. So someone has created a table admin, some other user has created same table distribution role. Then select it. You can see what system privileges are added to it. Nothing is there. What privileges this user has added into this role? Nothing. It's a dummy role basically. So it's not giving you it's not giving you with any privilege. But let us say if you are adding a good role with the right amount of privileges, you'll be able to see the privileges here. Okay, let us save it and see if we are getting any privileges or not. Hmm. Okay, what happened? Not created. Okay. So validate. So it is clearly showing you that valid until cannot be of the past date, basically. Okay. Let us give it 31st or something. And I think it will allow us to save it now. Yeah. So happy user ID is created. Okay. So see what privileges. So whenever you create a user, this public role is automatically created. This is a standard role which is created by the system itself. Okay. And it is granted by what? You can see which user ID granted this. We did not grant this. Who is the responsible user ID which granted this? So this grantor is a very good topic, guys. Okay, which we are going to cover in our coming sessions. So this user ID is responsible for granting this public role. So by giving this public role, what happens? This public role will basically give you access to all the system views. You'll be able to only view the views which are there in the system. Okay, that basic standard access is given by the this user ID, which is your standard user ID. And there are, as I said to you earlier, in this screenshot, you were able to see the different kind of system user IDs and different kinds of tasks that it is going to perform. Let us say, okay, now you have seen sys user ID. Okay, what is it doing? It is assigning a public user whenever you create public role, whenever you create a new user ID. Similarly, sys and repo is responsible for one task. Sys and repo is the owner for all the objects that you are going to create because it is going to store all these objects in a repository. So why is it necessary to store all the objects in the repository? For okay, let us say if Emmanuel has left the company, okay, he has all these objects created with his under his own schema. Okay, if let us say as per the levers policy, if I am going to delete the user, what is going to happen? All the schema that is created by, let us say, Emmanuel is lost. So for that reason, to prevent that, what SAP has does is that there is a system user ID inbuilt in HANA DB, which does this activity. It stores everything into the repository, whatever object you create, whatever calculation view you create, whatever attribute you are going to create. It is going to add all these objects or all this data into a repository, and it is going to save it as a backup by default. Okay. You'll have it even if an employee leaves the company also, it doesn't matter to SAP basically. Basically, it will have everything sorted. So that is how you got this public role by default. And okay, you're not able to see any privileges, and you're only able to see one privilege, that is object privilege, because this is also a privilege which is created by default by the system user ID. It is created by default. This is what? This is a schema which is created automatically. If you log in with happy user ID, you will be only able to see one schema under your under your catalog along with the system schemas. You will have these system schemas under your ID, but only you'll be able to view the data in it. You'll not be able to change any data by default. Okay, because you will only be able to view this data because of this public role, which is allotted to you automatically. To you automatically by the system user ID. Okay, that is that. Okay, what I also explained you about the restricted user. Right? So this slide clearly explains for you for every person who needs to work with SAP HANA, the administrator creates a database user. User admin is nothing but the security person like us. We are going to create the standard users or the restricted users. So as you can already see, by default, they can create objects in their own schema. So by default, the standard schema is created with their own name. They can create whatever system use they want, and they can get read access to system use. Okay, which is granted by this public role automatically, which is granted to every standard user. Okay, restricted user is also a similar thing. We are not going to assign any system privileges or object privileges, schema privileges to this restricted user because he is not going to log in into HANA DB directly. What is he going to do? He is going to basically login with the application itself. He is going to log in from application itself. So for such users, there's a different access that we are going to give. That is nothing but your application privileges. I'm going to show you that. Okay, when and in the further sessions, what application privileges are we going to grant? You'll have all the standard SAP application privileges here, but okay, we are not going to grant this. Okay, so I'll show you how we create a role with application privileges in it. Okay, when you grant this role, these application privileges are automatically reflected so that this user can access HANA DB from his application itself. He'll not be logging into the system directly. And also remember, guys, so you will not be able to log in with this system user IDs like you have here. Let me show you. So I showed you this system user IDs, right, in the earlier slide. Underscore sys, underscore series repo, underscore sys. The only system user ID that you will be able to log in is with the ID called system. That's it. You'll be able to log in only with this ID. All other IDs are internal database user IDs. Okay, all these user IDs are internal standard database user IDs, and login is not possible with these user IDs. Why do you have these user IDs in place? So that each and every ID has a specific task assigned to it. Okay, I have also, okay, let us not go here. Okay, I'll show you what, because I'm going to show you that. Okay. So in these two slides, I have given you the data, like what ID, so what user ID does what, system ID what it does, SID, ADM what it does. SID is nothing but your system ID, guys. It varies between organization to organization. Here, what is your system ID? It is STB. Here, what is your system ID? It is STB. So in your organization, it might vary. So SID is that basically. SID is your system ID. Let us say it would be HDB ADM user in our environment. Let's see. HTTP ADM would be your standard user ID that you get. See if it is that. It should be there. Not there. Okay. But usually it is there, guys. Okay. This is a standard user ID that has to be there in the system, and and there is a responsibility for it, which I'm going to explain what it is going to do. And the sys user ID. Now you have seen sys user ID has assigned a public role, and also it has created a schema of your name by default. Okay. So all these users, okay, except this one. This is an operating system user. Sorry. You'll not have it in the user section, guys. I forgot. This user ID is used while you're going to do the setup and all. Installation is done by this user ID using this user ID. Okay. And this SID ADM user ID is provided by SAP so that you can perform the installation. If you procure this license, you're going to get this user ID from SAP. Right? This user ID is your operating system user ID, and this allows you to install the application. Okay, while installing this application or the configuration of this application, you're going to use this ID basically. So this is operating system user, and this is the database user which you get by default at the time of installation. Okay, it will have access to everything in the system, be it tables or the database users or anything in the system. You're going to get it with the system user ID. Okay.